Brandon, thanks for being with us. I'm going to launch straight into it. Can you take us right back to the beginning? What's the origin story of Brandon Landry, just for a bit of context?
Yeah, so we don't have that much time, but I'll give you the cliff notes. So I was a walk-on the LSU basketball team in the late 90s and figured out pretty early on in my career that I wasn't going to get paid to play the game of basketball. I played 7 minutes my senior year.
Okay.
If you know anything about the game of basketball, that's not a whole hell of a lot. And so said, okay, might need to figure out another way to make a living. So my founding partner and my teammate, co-walk-on at the time, we came up with the idea. We were literally on the way back from a game in Knoxville, Tennessee. All the starters were sleeping. We started doodling on that little bev nap on the back of the plane and went to an entrepreneurship class at LSU, and we had to do a business plan. And we said, well, let's do this little idea, have a cool sports bar here in Baton Rouge. We did. We got a C on the project. The professor said it wasn't necessarily the idea. We just needed some help with the content on the business plan. And so that walk-on mentality kicked in at an early age. You know, being a walk-on is playing for the true love of the game. You're not looking for the fame or the glory. You're just trying to help the team win. And it's honestly, it's what our business is built on for the last 21 years, that right there. And so we went back to work and we started talking to different banks and tried to improve our business plan. And we went to the first bank and the banker said, yeah, we like it. No, we can't take that risk. You guys are 21 years old. You want to open up this large restaurant. As we know, the restaurant business is risky in itself, especially to young and experienced knuckleheads. And so we went to bank 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They all said, no, 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 no. And we went to number 7. And lucky number 7, walked into an SBA banker in Lafayette, Louisiana. And he said, guys, I love it. So if you're willing to bust your tail, we'll back you. Got the original open in September of 2003. We just made 20 years last year. Supposed to be one restaurant. You know, sometimes it's ignorance is bliss. You don't know what you don't know. We got it open and we improved upon the years, and now we're sneaking on 100 locations in 16 states.
Wow, yeah, amazing. And not only that, I mean, you've just hit 21 years old, right? This is a few weeks ago.
Yes, a couple weeks ago.
There you go. What a milestone.
We're old enough to drink now.
Fantastic, right? What a relief.
Yeah.
Wow. And look, did you always have an interest, or did you have an inkling really early on that you were going to get into the restaurant business, or was it just that moment up in the air on the back of a napkin?
No, man, I'm a thinker. You know, I grew up a sugarcane farmer in South Louisiana. My dad was 5th generation sugarcane farmer, so the only thing I knew about restaurants is that I ate at them, and so it was literally an idea. You know, two young guys, and now I'm passionate about the business and have developed other brands, and I just love everything about. There's nothing better than the instant gratification that a guest can get when you do it right. And I think that's what really gets me going, really kind of it gets our teams going, and we're inspired by that. And it all comes from that walk-on mentality of, you know, people ask, well, what's the reason for you guys' success? And I mean, look, a lot of it's luck, right? I think anyone will tell you out there that have had successful brands, you need the right things to happen at the right time. But also, I go back to not knowing what I didn't know. The only thing I knew in the beginning was I was the 13th guy to 13 guys on the team. I knew I wasn't going to play against Kentucky when we went up to play the #1 team in the country in Rupp Arena. But I'd be damned if I wasn't going to do everything in practice that week trying to prepare our team to go play Kentucky, knowing I wasn't going to get a second. And that's the philosophy and the mindset that we brought in, not knowing how to cook a chicken breast at 22 years old. But I knew if I could get the team to rally around and say, let's do it for the betterment of the team and not for the individual, that we could do something special. And that hasn't changed in 2 decades now. Whether you're a first-day dishwasher or you're a regional manager, you're an integral part of the team, and we treat you the same. And, you know, I pose this question to our teams all the time. Friday night, 7:30, hour-and-a-half wait. General manager walks out of the building. How bad is the shift going to be? And people go, oh, we'll be all right. Friday night, 7:30, hour and a half wait, dishwasher walks out of the building. How bad is that shift going to be? People are like, oh, we're screwed. Yeah, it's the lowest he or she on the totem pole, right? Typically lowest pay, and it's the most integral part. That's the walk-on. That's the 13 guy to 13 guys on the bench. And so we've, not to get too much into our walk-ons culture here, but I mean, honestly, that's the reason for our success.
Yeah. Well, no, that is an integral part of it. Is that kind of that it's got that strong story and backing it. Obviously, is going to translate to the, obviously the guest experience. And I guess that, what do you think? Well, firstly, who's been to a walk-ons before here? Yeah.
We're mainly in the Southeast, kind of the 15 states in the Southeast. Yeah.
Who's your target audience, and what do you think resonates with the guest coming into that space?
Yeah, I think it's two. One thing that we've really spent a lot of time on, especially over the last year, as our industry has changed, is you have to know who your guests are and how to go after them, how to market to them, how to communicate with them. And so all the research that we've done, we have two guests. We have the sports enthusiasts, right? We have these people that want to come in. They got to see the game. Yesterday, all the games on. They got to see the game. We got to be the place for that. And then, crazy enough, what we found out, it's the soccer moms is our second guest. I mean, think about it. When we got into the business 20, 25 years ago, a sports bar was a guy's beer drinking hangout. You didn't really cater to women. For us, we've seen a competitive advantage there, really going after the soccer moms, having a place for them to bring the soccer team, the t-ball team, the gymnastics crew after. And who typically makes the decision as a family, where are you going to eat? I know my wife does. So I think about it, and having the kids to where they can come in and play Papa Shots and play the claw game. And, our staff is, we're not in the restaurant world. That's the term out there, right? We're making sure that we cater to all of those demos and making sure that no one is uncomfortable coming in a sports bar. And so we've seen success with it. Now we're just going to double down.
Yeah. So what's the plan ahead moving forward? I know you now have just released a new, or as of next year, we're putting out a new prototype, right?
Yes.
And it's a pretty big departure from what you usually have. I think you're usually around 10,000 square feet. Is that right?
85, 8, 10, yeah.
Okay.
Some 10, way too big.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, what's the plan moving ahead with this?
Yeah. So Jennifer Striplin, our CDO, sitting here. She's going to speak tomorrow, so I don't want to spill too much of her thunder. But we learned a lot. As bad as COVID was, as we know, COVID did a lot of bad things to just the human race, right? But there were some learnings from it. And what we noticed is, as we're shutting down 50% of our dining rooms and 80% of our dining rooms, and we're still doing the same volumes with half the seats, a third of the seats. And we're like, wow, okay, let's think about this here for a second. Do we need these big 8, 9, 10,000 square foot restaurants with, tremendous build out costs and, more staff? I mean, just everything, right? If you have a larger building, it's more difficult to run. And so we really looked at this and say, okay, look, do we need it? No. But let's not take away from what got us here. And so we took the key elements of what made walk-on special, that game day atmosphere where everyone felt like they could come in and be home, and just kind of shrunk it. Using some technology in the kitchens where we could, because we pride ourselves on scratch kitchens, that's a big point of differentiation for us. When you come into a walk-ons, it's not freezer or fryer food. We're peeling and deveining fresh Gulf seafood and stuffing it with cream cheese and jalapenos, wrapping it with bacon, serving it over sweet corn grits. Hand rolling mozzarella cheese. There's a lot that goes into it. So we can't get away from that. But, what are our superstars? What do we see that the guests in doing all the studies, what do they want, right? And then just shrinking the footprint. And, how do we get more efficient in the kitchen? How do we get more efficient with seating? Really looking at 2 tops versus 4 tops versus 8 tops. All that plays into your design. And then look, being young and designing these buildings over the years, in the day, it was like, man, that looks pretty. Let's do that, right? And then having an expert like Jennifer being on our team, she's like, you don't realize how much money we're putting into this that we get no credit for whatsoever from a guest. And so just looking at things like that, having expertise on our team now that can say, Brandon, just step out of the room for a second and just we'll show you the prototype here in a second. And it's like, okay, I like that. So it's not like, man, it's a completely different walk-ons. We're just getting more efficient.
Okay, sure. And how many locations are you hoping to have over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of corporate growth with this motto as well. Just, you know, I mean, our brand right now is about 90-10 franchise to corporately owned. But we're going to put our money where our mouth is as well, because we're very excited about this new model. And then franchisees are jumping all over it as well. So we have our walk-ons conference here next month, and we're going to unveil it to them. And I think, just as you know, there's no secret in any restaurant world. They're already finding out about it and getting screenshots and things like that. So lots of excitement with our current franchisees and potential franchisees out there that really didn't want to deal with a 8, 9, 10,000 square foot building with lots of moving parts.
Sure.
We're even looking at menu changes, you know, not completely changing the menu, but bringing it down to a more scalable size. And so all these things, I think, will play into a great Walk-Ons 2.0 launch.
Got you. Fantastic. I do want to shift gears a bit. One of the reasons I wanted to have you along today as well, just, you know, obviously you guys are doing so well. You know, there's obviously been a bit of scrutiny with in the media, and just how casual dining, the segment's been going over the last few years and recently. I guess, what's your take on the lay of the land with casual dining? And I guess, you know, what are some of the things that you guys do well that, you know, different to what's happening?
It's the world has changed, especially since COVID, right? And so you cannot get stagnant. And you're seeing, I mean, we read articles every week, right? Another legacy brand shuttering its doors. And I think what just my opinion, I think what some of these brands fall into, they fall into the most dangerous phrase in our English language is, we've always done it that way. And they don't want to evolve or change. And I had a mentor early on that tell me, you're either evolving or you're dying. And if you don't do it, you're going to go the other way. And so, yeah, a lot of things get you to a certain point, but will get you to a certain point and doesn't always get you to the next, especially the way the world has changed. And so you have to stick true to your roots, first of all. I think you have to look and really dig deep and understand, all right, what got us to this point, but also what's changing out there. I mean, AI and technology, and I mean, just but I still think you have in casual full service dining, you have to go back to what people always wanted. They wanted consistency. They wanted hospitality. It's not just serving, it's hospitality. And if you look at the ones that are really successful out there, even in this climate, they didn't go and they don't have robots at the doors or things like that. They just doubled down on quality, on value. And by value, I'm not just saying discounting, like truly getting a value for what the guests are walking in for, and staying true to their roots. The best one out there, I mean, you guys see the numbers, Texas Roadhouse. I mean, to see the growth that those, and it's not like they're doing mechanical steaks. And, you know, it's just doing it the right way over time, attracting great talented management and leadership that takes care of their team, and inevitably they take care of their guests. And so I truly think you just have to double down on execution and hospitality, because everybody, and they write the articles, and I was like, casual dining is, I disagree, just because I saw what happened in COVID. Once again, a learning that I got from COVID, when they shut casual dining restaurants all around the world, right? And people were like, yeah, it's fine. You know, I'm going to go to the fast food and I'm going to go cook at home. Man, after about 2 weeks of making your own turkey sandwich You wanted to go sit at a bar, be waited on, and have a burger. And we saw that right away. I mean, just as they started reducing some of the stipulations, and people were coming in, it's like, man, it's just good to sit back in a restaurant and have a beer and watch a game. And so I truly think that this business is always here, but the cream will rise. And like you said, if you're not innovating, if you're not getting better, you will die.
Speaking of the experience and how much we crave that, you also have another concept in Baton Rouge, Supper Club. That's right?
I do.
How did that come about? It's relatively new, right?
Yeah, it's more of a passion project. My wife and I mean, throughout our travels, going to things like this and being aided some of the restaurants in cities like this. Baton Rouge in South Louisiana is known for great food, right? But I just thought they had an opportunity for great food with some sort of ambiance and feeling kind of big city. And so we did, it's called Supper Club. We call it a modern dining parlor. And it's dinner only, 5 shifts, 5 nights a week, Tuesday through Saturday. And we are sourcing the best product in the world. I mean, we're bringing in Japanese Wagyu and Ora King salmon and just things that are, and it's all about, I mean, my whole vision with that was, let's just go above and beyond with service. We're not rushing anybody. I mean, if they're going to come in and buy a $250 Ami filet from Japan in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it better be worth it. And the guests are. We're cracking on 3 years now of being open, and it's been fun for us. I don't know if I'm going to grow it. I probably won't franchise this model, but I may strategically pick markets that it could work in.
Fantastic. We're jumping around again. We're going to run out of time before you know it. Another reason why I wanted to have you along at this edition of Restaurant Spaces is earlier this year at our last gathering, we had Maria Rivera, CEO of Small Sliders, come and give a talk. And I remember looking out over the audience, just at people's reactions as she was going through that concept, and just the amount of volume you're doing through those stores, the growth that you're powering right now, and just obviously we'll jump into this, just the way that you are developing that concept and rolling it out. So, tell us about, how did that come about? How did that idea? Were we on a plane this time?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm always thinking. My teams don't necessarily always like that, but So I've been fortunate enough. Drew Brees is my partner in walk-ons. He bought in with me 10 years ago, and we were literally in the air again. We were flying somewhere,
Okay.
and no joke.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
right. Okay.
And it was just Drew and I, and I had started dabbling with this little concept. This is 2018, and I have the luxury of living in Baton Rouge and was able to see the very first Raising Cane's open up, and just on the north gates of LSU. And now my very best friend in the whole world is the founder, Todd Graves. And so Todd and I spent a lot of time together, and being in the walk-ons world for 2 decades, and I saw something. I was like, man, I said, Todd, I think I got something, and I want to take a page out of your book. I want to do one item, and we had these cheeseburger sliders on our walk-ons menu, but I grew up a cheeseburger kid. It was never a fast food cheeseburger place that I would not get my parents to stop at, and so it was just in me as a kid, and I said, man, I think we can do something here. I think we can, like Cane's, do one item, do it better than anyone else in the world, cook it to order, reduce a cool, brandable footprint that kind of changes the skyline of a city overnight.
Okay.
Because branding is just as important as what you have coming out of the brand. And honestly, that's how it was started. So it was cook to order, cheeseburger sliders, fries, and shakes, out of a 750 square foot modular sea can, basically. No indoor dining, and this was pre-COVID, but I just saw, having the walk-ons world, once again, of these huge facilities, said, I don't want any indoor dining. Let's just do a little outdoor patio. And let's see if we can crank $1 million, $2 million revenue out of these buildings. Everything was right except for the revenue. You know, we have some units doing 4 and 5 million right now. Average is about 2.5, trending up. Crystal probably. We're going to finish the year with almost 30 units and now almost 400 franchises sold throughout the country. It's on steroids right now. It's honestly, it's Maria, I'll tell you, and thank God we have a leader like her. To be able to just, all right, we have to operate currently what we have going on and open, but also see this could very well be, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 unit chain.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's gone that quick, and unit economics are very attractive. And so probably just since she's spoken here, the amount of sophisticated franchise groups, and also we're looking at it from a board perspective and seeing the unit economics. And now we've marked off parts of the country that are do not sell areas that we're going to go do some corporate growth as well. So we'll do both lanes simultaneously with franchise growth and corporate growth. But it's been fun, and nothing that goes that fast definitely doesn't come without any challenges. And so,
sure.
But they're all good problems to have. I would much rather be having these problems than figuring out how to get people in the drive-through and get people to like this little craveable cheeseburger slider. But that's not the problem right now. It's just understanding, okay, how do we set this thing up to be successful? And so we're from a board perspective, we have invested heavily in infrastructure and in talent. And I mean, our CDO, Don Croker, came from Inspire Brands and 18 years with Chick-fil-A prior to that. I mean, we are not looking at this thing right now and saying, okay, let's hire for the next year. No, we're hiring for the next 10 to 15 years.
You have a crazy team. I've been keeping an eye on that and just watching the announcements. How have you managed that? Is it just the sort of the attractiveness of the brand that's bringing these folks to you, or?
Yeah, it starts with the leader, man. And that's not me. That's Miss Rivera. Yeah, she's a rock star. And I know I'm not supposed to say that on those commercials. You can't say rock stars in the corporate world, but she's just unbelievable what she's been able to do to compartmentalize what's going on. Like I said, currently, like we have current operations that we have to, there's challenges, right? Like when you design these things at 750 square feet to do $1 million, and you open up in an opening week, last week in Ocala, Florida, and you do $150,000 out of 750, like, all right, where do, like, we have to, I mean, so it's design, it's everything, but we're also looking at this as like, okay, in 5 years, where do we want to be? How do we want to be acting? Because, and it's not like we want to go build 3,000 or 4,000 square foot smalls. That's not the deal. People love the initial investment, of taking a half an acre, and that's even changed now because of the stacking, right? I mean, we thought we would have 10 cars in the drive-through. Now we got 50, and so once again, all good problems to have, but it's just it takes leadership, and yes, a cool brand and something that's growth like that definitely attracts great talent, but it all comes down to, do they want to work with the leaders at hand right now? And when you sit down with Maria and you understand, okay, this is someone I'll run through a wall with, and then having our board, myself, I'm the chairman of both boards, and Drew's on both boards, and then our private equity group, 10 Point Capital, they've been great for us. So they invested in walk-ons in 2020, and then when I had the first smalls open, they kind of started peeking over the fence, and they were like, what do you got? I was like, whoa, boys, I thought we were talking about walk-ons here. And then they said, man, we'd love to get into this early. And I'm glad we did. Yeah. Because they really kind of set the mindset for me. I'm a founder, man. Like, there's different skill sets, right? Like, I can kind of see the vision of the brand, what it needs to look like, what it needs to feel like, taste like. Scaling is completely different. That's why I knew it was time for me to step out of the CEO role for walk-ons when we really started the growth in that. And then smalls from day one, I was like, okay, we need high-powered growth CEO in this spot.
Right. You mentioned just how it looks, and you go into a place and it sort of, you said transform the skyline. We had some images up before. They are really distinctive. They do stick out quite a lot. They kind of remind me of like an old Pizza Hut or an IHOP or something like that in terms of that, just really making an impression. Where'd you get the idea for the cans? How did that come about? Apart from, it's cheap to roll out.
Yeah, and and honestly, it's not as cheap as we thought.
Okay,
It's
right.
just small, right?
Sure.
A lot of people confuse modular with cheap.
Sure, right, yeah.
It's accelerated depreciation, so that works. But it was kind of going to these food truck parks and things like that, and just saying, okay, it kind of brings your guard down, right? When you walk up to an old fabricated modular shipping container. And once again, I was trying to think of something that just looked different, because everyone, and nothing against everyone else out there, but I mean, they build their boxes, they put their sign up, and yeah, they may do a different color, but it really, sometimes you can, and you see chains all the time, they take the sign off and they paint it a different color, and now it's a new concept. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do that with us. I mean, you literally have to take the whole thing off if one of us doesn't work. And so I love the idea of kind of going up to a state fair or something, when you walk up to one of these little booths and it's like, wow, that's a really good kind of homemade burger. And how do we get that feel with Smalls? And then once we kind of started looking at the design and say, okay, we got to build the modular part out down low, and then can our signage actually be a freaking orange sea can hanging out in the sky? And it has. And so I love the fact that we can do all the surface work while the modular building is being fabricated at one of our plants. Everything is ready, parking lots are ready, and we actually call it can dropping on our market. We market this. We drop the can, we put the can on top, and we're trying to reduce this. Right now it's a little over 30 days by the time we drop until we're selling the first slider. We'd love it to have it within 2 weeks, where you can drop, and then in 2 weeks later, like, whoa, where did that come from? And they're open. And so that's the goal here. But modular, I mean, we're not the only one doing modular. I mean, there's tons of modular out there. I think it's just kind of more the branding that we have around it.
Mm-hmm. How many staff do you have running those, each location?
Sorry?
Yeah. How many employees do you have running each location?
Yeah, that's the thing too. With that small footprint, you can't put that. That's why the unit economics look so good, right? So I mean, on a busy shift, what do you, 8 or 10? I think that's about all you can fit in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, we've only got a few more minutes left. I do want to just shift. I mean, look, we've talked about some of the concepts you come up with today. You've probably got a lot on your plate, but do you have any other ideas brewing, or? Come
on now, Jason. No, look, I love our industry, right? I think there's, once again, I go back to, there's nothing better than when you can see, I couldn't be in the construction world that builds a skyscraper, right? That they can design something, and maybe 10 years down, they'll see the fruits of their labor. I appreciate that, but I love the fact that we can open up a restaurant and someone can come in, and by the end of the meal, it's like, wow, that was good. And there's nothing that makes people happier than a good meal, right? And so I think that, along with hospitality and just, for me, it's at this point, and I'm 45 years old. It's not like I'm done, but I love building teams, inspiring teams, coming up with concepts, and getting great leaders to kind of come together and rally around a mission, vision, and that true purpose. And so for me, every concept that I do, it's not like, oh, okay, well, let's just go cook a good steak or something. No, it's like, all right, what is our why behind this? Not to steal from Simon Sinek, but he's my favorite out there, because it truly does start with why. And so for me, if I'm looking at something different, that there may be an opportunity out there, it has to come from, okay, why? And how do we get our troops to rally around this and really fall in love with the brand? Because, I mean, lots of guys and gals, I mean, they're great chefs, right? And they have a good idea, but they don't center it around that true vision, and that where every teammate, and it can disseminate all the way down. And for me, that's kind of where I'm at. And then, we have our Game On Foundation that Walk-Ons and Smalls is participating in, and just trying to get more kids out there playing, right? And if you look at, the world now and these screens and what's going on, and I just go back to my day. I mean, look, I didn't have an iPad. I was out there playing ball, getting competitive, learning how to be a teammate with kids. And so using our platform in our restaurant and Smalls and Walk-Ons and then Supper Club to donate to building youth sports facilities and getting equipment to kids out there and doing things like that, just so we can get, like, there's nothing better in life than being a part of a team. I mean, everyone in here right now is a part of a team. And look, when you can be a part of a team and you play for something bigger than yourself, I think that goes a long way. And so using our platform right now to really do that and start them young and get them back, tackling each other and figuring out a way to be a teammate.
Brandon Landry, we wish you the best of luck as you scale these brands. Thank you so much for joining us at Restaurant Spaces. It's too easy.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.